Nice to be back, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well. I hope you are well.
Everything is great. I'm going to the All-Star game on Sunday. Can't get much better than that.
Doesn't get better than that. And Paul Skeens is not only going to go to the All-Star game, he's going to be the starter this after the 7 no-hit innings at Milwaukee. When you look at the choice of Skeens and what it means for the game just 1 year after he was the first overall pick, what does that mean for the sport?
Well, it's a great thing for the sport because he's going to be the face of pitching in baseball for the next several years. And I'm not sure, maybe other than Steven Strasburg, the last time we saw anyone burst onto the scene quite like this. But he's been even better than Strasburg. He's basically been better than anyone. I mean, if you look at his first 11 starts, he has 89 strikeouts.
Yep.
And a sub-2 ERA. No pitcher in the history of baseball has ever had an ERA under 2 with that many strikeouts in his first 11 starts. He has been unbelievably good. And the performance that he had yesterday was just enough for Torey Lovello to say, all right, this is obvious. But more than just, he deserves to start the All-Star game based on merit.
Yes.
But when you're based on trying to sell the game, which is what the All-Star game is all about, it's a celebration of the sport, then he has to start the game because he's the one pitcher that you want to watch. If he's pitching today, he's the one pitcher you have to watch. And how much more can baseball ask than having the bottom of the first inning in Texas started by Paul Skeens and going up against, say, Gunnar Henderson, Juan Soto, and Aaron Judge? That's perfect.
Right.
And that's why he should be starting the All-Star game.
To me, this is, when you're talking about young pitchers, you mentioned Strasburg, but even going further back, Mark Fidrich, right, comes out and it kind of captures everybody's imagination. Fernando Valenzuela. To me, this is a lot like that, where this guy has captured the imagination, and now, really for the first time, I know there are highlights and so forth, but this is really the first time the entire nation gets to see this.
Right, and that's exactly why he should start the All-Star game. Now, I was covering baseball when Valenzuela came on the scene, and his first 10 starts were just ridiculous because he completed all of them and threw a bunch of shutouts, I think 6 in his first 10 starts. It was just amazing. And he captured, Southern California, not to mention all of Mexico, too. But Paul Skeens is, being the number 1 pick in the draft, absolutely sailing through the minor leagues like he did in a short stint. And now he's starting the All-Star game. This is just exactly what baseball could want. Because even though I get every game on TV at my house, like others who have the MLB package, there are a lot of people who have never seen him pitch. And when they see a 6'6", 250-pound guy who throws 102 miles an hour with an elite breaking ball and elite command and one of the great competitors you'll ever see, and he's 22 years old, this is exactly what baseball wants and needs.
So that goes into another side story, and the fact is the Major League Baseball draft will be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Sunday will be with round 1. Now, we all know it's when the 5th-round pick in the NFL, and I saw Hunter Norzad the other day, who's going to the Kansas City Chiefs. He's going to make the team. All right? NBA first-round picks, they're all going to play. But in Major League Baseball, no matter if you're picked in the first round, there's a good chance you're in the minors for a while, except this guy was barely in the minors. Is it a nice side story that it shows that a guy in a year can do this?
Yeah, I think it just speaks to where college baseball is today. It's a different game than it was, say, 20 years ago. And with the portal and everything else, I had Ben McDonald telling me the other day there are pitchers in college right now who are 24 years old who are using the system to get more college years so they can be more ready when pro ball calls. So these guys who are getting to the big leagues are getting there sooner. than ever. They're bigger, stronger, faster than ever. And it's great for the game that a guy who pitched in college last year is in the big league starting the All-Star game the next year. And his college coach told us in spring training, he said he could have pitched in the big leagues last year as a senior in college. That's how far along Paul Skeens was. As you know, Steve, what really separates him from so many young pitchers is he tells his manager, his coach, whatever, I'm not coming out of the game until the game's over. That's his mindset before every start. And you got to love that. Even though they took him out in the seventh inning of a no-hitter.
Yeah, he wasn't happy about it. But it's also interesting, too, that he was a catcher at Air Force. That's the part that strikes me about it. And then, I know they encouraged him, hey, you've got to go higher up as a pitcher. You've got to be able to do that. But that's interesting. That's where he started.
Right, and I just love that he has a catcher's mentality because catchers are a different breed. Trust me, I've seen a million of them. And the fact that he went from catcher to pitcher, the fact that he played at the Air Force Academy, and I was told once that, as an underclassman, a couple of guys on the team were not really paying attention during the national anthem, standing on the line, and he told them, that's not how we do it here. And he showed them the respect that you need to show. That's the born leader that this kid is, also way, way beyond his years as far as poise and everything else.
And again, I've run into that, obviously, along the way with certain guys that have ended up being catchers and then converted to being pitchers. I just saw David Carpenter, in fact, last week, who pitched with the Braves, the Astros, and the Cardinals for a period of time. He started as a catcher here in State College. And so, there's a lot of guys that have done that during the course of their career. A lot of injuries in the first half. How concerning has that been across the league?
It's of great concern, and it should be for all of the game. Steve, you know that the industry has encouraged our pitchers to throw as hard as you can on every pitch. Get it to 100 if you can. And then when you throw your breaking ball, we want you to spin it at a rate that nobody else can spin it. And this is how our pitchers are now operating. And the industry has told them, if you want to get to the big leagues and stay in the big leagues, you have to strike people out, you have to miss bats. And that's mostly what our pitchers are thinking about today. So you put all that together with all sorts of other factors, and that's why there have been so many injuries in the game, especially to our pitchers. And to fix this, it's going to take a long time. We're going to have to go to our little league kids and tell them, you don't have to throw harder than everyone else. You don't have to throw a breaking ball at age 11 and spin it like nobody else. You can put a ball in play and let your defense do the work. That's what we have to do, I believe, in order to get back to keeping our players a little healthier.
It's interesting because the Philly starters are now logging more innings this season, to the point where Rob Thompson has to make decisions about the bullpen to get them a little more work. Have you talked to anybody in the Phillies organization? Are they doing something a little different at the major leagues between starts with their guys, or is their approach with the Phillies starters are a little bit different than others, or is it just worked out for these guys?
Well, first off, they're all really good. That's why their innings levels are up, because they're good enough to pitch deep into games. They also have a president of baseball operations, Dave Dombrowski, who is an old school guy and believes it's okay to challenge a starting pitcher to go 7, 8, and even 9 innings once in a while. They also have a loaded bullpen there but instead of overusing that bullpen, they have it all lined up, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th innings. So they're in a really good spot there. But I really believe it's a case where it's a mindset now. You guys are going to pitch deep into this game. And if you can't, we got people behind you. But they're also really smart about it. I mean, Rob Thompson told us the other day, I did the Dodgers-Philly game the other night, that it's possible they'll go to a six-man rotation, at some point this year when the games really pile up. And Zach Wheeler is not expected to start on Sunday before the All-Star break because he had a bit of a back issue, and there's no reason to push him if they don't have to. That's what the Phillies are doing, in part because they're really good and have a big lead, but they're also intent on having their guys as healthy as they can be when October comes.
All right, so they have the best record in baseball. The best record in the American League and the second best record happen to be the Cleveland Guardians. You've liked this team from day one. After watching a body of work to this point where they're right about 95, 96 games with, about 66 to go, what makes the Guardians, in your opinion, really good and a team that, should they get to the postseason, which they're on track to do, would be dangerous for somebody?
Yeah, their offense is way better, Steve, than I thought it was going to be. They've outscored their opponents by 87 runs this year. They're fourth in the league in runs scored. And even though they hit the ball out of the ballpark, they don't do it at the rate that some other teams do. They put the ball in play. They run. They take the extra base. They play more of an old-school style of game where let's put it in play and make the other team make a defensive play. Stephen Kwan starts all of that at the top of the order. He's hitting 360, struck out 23 times all year, and everyone else just falls into place after that. So offensively, I did not see them being this good. Their starting pitching is stretched right now with injuries and everything else, but they also have a very good defense and a great bullpen. Manuel Clase, their closer, has a 0.83 ERA. They are a really good team, way better than I thought they were going to be, and this team could be very dangerous in October, especially if they go get another starting pitcher before then at the trade deadline.
I mean, Jose Ramirez is putting up numbers I would expect him to put up. I mean, he's, 23 homers, 77 knocked in. How much has it helped him, though, that Josh Naylor has been able to hit 22 home runs?
Yeah, Josh Naylor has 70 RBIs, and he's the biggest reason, David Fry also, that this team has taken off is he keeps getting better every single day, and that's part of it. And so when you can put together, when Ramirez has some help in the lineup, which he does right now. In fact, he has plenty of help right now. Yeah. That really speaks to it. And Stephen Vogt has done a fabulous job as the manager of that team. I'm not surprised at all. I wrote a huge story about him in spring training, and I had people telling me everybody who played with Stephen Vogt knew he would not only be a manager one day, he'd be a really good manager one day. And right now, he's the American League Manager of the Year.
162 games, you're going to hit ruts along the way. Why are the Yankees in a rut?
Well, their starting pitching, which was so sensational for 2 months, has hit the skids. Carlos Rodon hasn't been close to the same pitcher the last month as he was the first two. Luis Gil, who was unhittable for 2 months, is just a rookie, and he has struggled also. Garrett Cole isn't all the way back, but I expect him to be. Plus, their offense, which was so good, has really struggled, other than Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. They're not getting much production out of third or second right now or behind the plate. Giancarlo Stanton is hurt. I fully expect the Yankees to turn this around, but they've lost 18 out of 25. They have the worst record in baseball since June 13th. And again, I didn't see that coming, but they're going to have to go get a pitcher at the trade deadline if they're going to do something in October.
I know you love your job. I know it's work along the way, but what do you enjoy about the All-Star game as somebody who covers it and loves the game so much?
Yeah, I've covered everyone since 81, and what I love the most, I love the first-time All-Stars who've never been there before. It's the look on their face when they walk into the clubhouse for the first time. It's the look on their face when they are standing on the field with guys that they've played against, guys that they've admired for so long. And a million years ago, Johnny Bench told me that at the 68 All-Star game, Willie Mays came up to him. It's Johnny's first All-Star game, and he whispered in his ear, "You should be starting the All-Star game." And here's Johnny Bench, who can't even believe he's at the All-Star game, and now the greatest player he's ever seen comes up and whispers to him and says, "You should be starting." That was affirmation for Johnny Bench, that not only did he belong in the All-Star game, but he really belonged because Willie Mays told him that. Those are my favorite stories, the guys who were there for the first time.
If I recall, that would have been the Astrodome. Willie Mays hit leadoff and scored the game's only run in the first inning. Did I do okay?
Yeah, Willie was, Walter Alston was the manager a bunch of those years, and he used to tell Willie, "You know these guys better than I do. You can fill out the lineup card." So Willie told me that he made out the lineup card for the National League team multiple times, and a couple times he just said, "Well, I'll hit leadoff, Clemente will get me over, and Hank Aaron will get me in." And that's what we saw. 1, 2, 3 in the All-Star game.
Well, the National League won how many in a row, so he must have done a great job of picking the lineup. So.
Oh, he did a fabulous job, that is for sure.
Tim, absolute pleasure. Enjoy the All-Star game, and as always, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, Steve. Thank you.
Good to be back. How are you?
Doing very well, thanks. Long seasons bring with them ups and downs. In your opinion, when you've seen the Phillies have down moments, how have they handled it, and what's then brought them back?
Honestly, they've handled everything pretty much the same way. Just watching them, it's the same every day. Most of these guys are the exact same people every day. They don't like to lose, and they don't want to lose. You know, if they lose one, they don't want to lose two. But when they come to work, you see these guys before games and in the clubhouse or whatever happened the night before, however good or however bad, they're on to the next game. And they're pretty focused. It's been fun to watch.
Trey Turner's been able to get back into the lineup off, 6 weeks or so on the IL. He's hitting .348. What's the difference you see in Trey Turner now compared to the one that was fighting his way through last year until the Phillies fans gave them that great moment?
I think as much as anything, I mean, he's a guy that works a lot on his swing. And I just think he's timed up right now, honestly. He obviously can do a lot of things. He's got tremendous power because he can generate unbelievable bat speed. Also hit with 2 strikes. He can also leg out an infield hit. And he's doing it all right now offensively. And, he's kind of in that place where hitters get once they get their mechanics figured out and get to where they want to be and get to where they feel comfortable. Right now, he's just kind of on cruise control. And, it's been fun to watch. It's been amazing to watch, actually. Because, for a guy who was out that long and to come right away with multi-hit game after multi-hit game, I think it's pretty impressive what he's doing.
What kind of job has Caleb Cotham done as the pitching coach? We always hear about what Rob does and so forth. You're around it every day, so his name does come up. But in general, his name doesn't come up. What kind of job has he done?
He's done a very good job. I think they have found a little balance here between, Caleb and Brian Kaplan, right, the director of pitching. Yep. And both of them, work pretty hard to make sure that guys are on a certain trajectory and they look at, they understand pitching, they understand the body, they understand mechanics of it all. I think they're able to make corrections there. That I think they deserve a lot of credit because, there's no doubt there are players who are better now than they were when they first got here or when they debuted or whatnot. You're not going to find too many guys who have, quote unquote, regressed, under their leadership. So, I'm always one. I certainly think highlighting the coaches is important because these guys do a ton of work. They're the first ones there, and they're ready to work whenever the player steps into work. And the players do the work, there's no doubt, but the coaches deserve a lot of credit because they're right alongside them every step of the way.
You have starters logging innings. eating up innings. Doesn't happen in every organization. Have they done anything different subtly as a coaching staff between starts that's allowed these pitchers to stay strong out on the mound?
No, they haven't. I mean, they're taking a real broad approach between not just the stuff that's happening on the mound, like in the game, how many pitches are thrown, how many innings are thrown, these kinds of things. But they look at it in a more of a world view, or if you want to use the term holistic view. I mean, they're looking at the way the body moves, they're looking at the nutrition, they're looking at the sleep, they're looking at all these different things. But I know there's a lot of eye rolls and whatever, but there's a lot of science going on. And they have somebody who's sort of in charge, and let's say it's player Jones, and somebody's in charge of your overall, right? And how all these things interconnect between, what you're eating, what you're drinking, what your sleep, patterns like, how much work you're putting in, how much work you're doing between starts. There's obviously the statistical analysis that they do, but there's all that biomechanical analysis that they do that's all part of the same sort of umbrella. And, they still seem pretty strong. They all seem like pretty strong pitchers, to be perfectly honest. Late in games, we're seeing, higher velocities. And that can only be attributable to the fact that they are that they're strong right now. Midway through the season, they've been taken care of.
The other part too is there's 93 games so far played by the Phillies to this point. Hoffman's pitched in 40, Jose Alvarado's pitched in 40, Strom's pitched in 38, going to the All-Star game, Soto's pitched in 36. What kind of job has Rob Thompson done actually making sure that these guys are getting enough work because his starters are extending innings?
Yeah, there have been a lot of days when he'll tell me before a game, I'll ask him, is anybody down? Is anybody unavailable? And he'll be like, no, man, I got three guys I got to get into the game. Like, I got to get them some work somehow.
Yep.
Because if, you run into a situation like, you're on a Sunday, and let's say Monday's off, and this guy's been pitching 4 days, and if I don't get him in the game today, it's going to be 6 days before he pitches in a game because we won't be at it till Tuesday. Well, Zach Wheeler's throwing on Tuesday, and he's going to go 7, so there's not a lot of innings to go around. So, yes, I think he's done the best that he can to try to keep guys not only, sharp and working enough, but also not overworked for the big guns, the Hoffmans, Alvarado, Strom, those kind of guys. I think the proof will be in the results down the stretch and in October, but it feels like these guys are going to be healthy and strong and ready to kind of kick it into high gear once they get to crunch time.
What have you seen from Castellanos over the past couple of weeks?
A little better balance. I think he's in a decent spot right now. He doesn't seem to be chasing as much. But Castellanos has been a frustrating player to watch and certainly a tough player to predict these last, couple years, and in this year in particular. It's been tough to predict, one game to the next or one series to the next or one trip to the next, what you're going to get, because it's been some wild swings, but I think all in all, he's in a little better place now, certainly than he was the first 2 months. And I think he's in a better spot in the lineup now, too. He's not quite so middle of the order. He's kind of back half of the order, and I think that suits where he's at in his career right now.
Well, JT's a special player behind the plate. We know that. And we know the batting averages are not great for the guys that have stepped in for them. But what kind of job have they done behind the plate handling the staff?
Great. No complaints, I don't think, at all from anybody. They've been in really good hands. And, yes, you're right. JT's a tough one to lose. And they've lost him for over a month now. But of all the things that could have gone wrong, to have that kind of depth ready to go, have Stubbs step in and play the way he has, to have Marchand waiting in the wings at AAA, this guy can really catch. He can really catch and throw. And Now that he's starting to put it together with the bat, maybe you got something there in Marchand. We've heard about him. We've seen him a little bit over the last few years, but he's mostly been in the minors or mostly been hurt. And now he's getting a chance to play, and he's healthy, and he's showing what he can do. So I think they've been really happy with what they've gotten in JT's absence.
You get to see a terrific team on an everyday basis. Now, we'll see how the postseason plays out, but we know they're a terrific team, and you see them on an everyday basis. Of the teams they have played against, have there been a couple where you walked out of the booth at the end of the series and said, that's a really good team, too?
Yeah, definitely. And they're the ones you would probably guess. Feel that way about the Dodgers this week, but the Dodgers aren't at full strength. I mean, they're a different team with Mookie Betts, and if they get some of their starters back, it's a different equation with the Dodgers. And they have some guys that haven't had a great first half that are capable of more offensively. So I think that may, play out in the second half. Of course, they're still leading their division. San Diego's a team that I think is putting it together. I thought when we saw them early that they should be better, and it seems like they're getting it together now. They've had injuries, no doubt, but they've got a lot of different weapons, and they can do a lot of things offensively when they're hot. I still think the Braves. I think the Braves are formidable in that they've got a lot of pop in their lineup. And if they get to October with those three starters healthy, rested, and pitching well, they're going to be a really tough team to beat. I mean, Fried, Sale, and Lopez, they're going to be really tough. The Phillies know that. They've, done a number on Fried, there's no doubt. But Sale's looked good every time we've seen him. He's looked good just about every time out this year. He's an all-star. Lopez looked great the other day in Atlanta. So I think what you do is you look for, because you know the Phillies are going to be in the postseason. So you look for those teams that have a collection right there. And the Braves still have a collection of starters that can beat the Phillies. So, if they get to the finish line healthy, but it would not be an easy series by any stretch.
What has it meant it's great to get guys back. I talked about Schwarber, there's Harper, Brandon Marsh. What does it mean getting him back?
Yeah, and him finding his swing again.
Yes.
Man, that's big. Last weekend in Atlanta, the Phillies lineup looked a lot like, say, the Braves and Dodgers lineups, which was 4 or 5 guys, very, very top heavy, and the bottom is kind of a catch-all, right? And you see all these, 100-something averages, right, at the bottom of a lineup. And the Phillies were running that out, Pache and Merrifield and guys that have struggled. But they're starting. And now you add Schwarber and Harper back into the mix, and Marsh is batting 7th. And he's swinging the bat well. Now you have damage coming from all parts of the order. And, they use the term length in the lineup. Well, it certainly does that, to have a guy like him back.
Is there anything that you look at that, like, every once in a while you look out and go, God, I got to be a little bit better there, even though they're playing great. But, you and I both know if you take care of the little things, the big things take care of themselves. Or any little things that sometimes they miss?
Yeah, I mean, the little thing to me is they need they could use, I'm not saying they need, I said they could use a right-handed bat that really kills lefties.
Yeah.
I just think you're going to come into a spot in the postseason. And I'm not saying it's somebody who starts, but I'm saying it's somebody who can come off the bench and put together an at-bat against a lefty. Now, Whit Merrifield may turn into that guy. He hasn't yet. That's what they envision him being, right? But they're going to need somebody who can come off the bench and hit for someone like Marsh against a lefty late in the game, because they're going to face it. They're going to face it over and over and over again. So that, to me, is one area where they absolutely have to improve. And it doesn't mean you go get a superstar, but it means you go get a role player who can accept his role. Think of how much mileage the Phillies got out of Matt Stairs back in the day, right?
Yes. Yeah.
To know that you have a guy come off the bench as a left-handed pinch hitter, and he could do damage. And I think they need that same kind of thing.
When Sunday rolls in, it'll be game 96. That means at that point there'll be 62 regular season games remaining. In terms of the timing of the break, especially for the vast majority of the roster, is this the good time to have it happen?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's a certain number of games that's better or worse, but you get a little bit past certainly the halfway point. With this thing with Wheeler and his back, it allows them to kind of sit on that for a little bit. He doesn't have to go on the IL. I think it's really great that, they can line up their rotation however they want coming out of the break. So Wheeler could essentially get 2 weeks off and not have to go on the IL, which would be great, for not only just healing up the back, but, keeping his arm fresh for September and October. Yeah, I mean, I think for everybody, you get to this point in the season and you can use a little break. 7 guys are going to have to go to Texas. They're going to be they're not going to get much of a break anyways. But I do think that these guys relish that. I think they embrace the idea that they can get a few days off and they can chill out for a little bit and sort of get ready for the second half.
How are you going to chill out?
I'm actually going to California, so I'm not chilling out at all. We're getting on a plane Sunday night, and family and I, and we got a little mini family reunion, more of a mother-in-law birthday situation. So,
well done. Happy birthday.
So I'm going to be flying cross country. I'm going to do what I do every week, and that's fly somewhere.
Well, happy birthday to the mother-in-law along the way.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll give you some time to get ready for these Sacramento and Oakland A's, okay?
Exactly. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks so much.